Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. On this podcast, we explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who have found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience, where they felt stuck, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others and finding possibility for yourself. Let's get into this week's conversation. Welcome back for another exciting summertime episode of Off the Comma. I am very excited to be here, as I am every week, but I'm really excited to be here this week, and I'm going to tell you why. So obviously, we know every episode is about people sharing stories, people talking about their experience with sitting on a comma and getting off the comma. And so many weeks, like I mentioned, I get to talk to people that I haven't met before, and I get to learn about them through their story. This week is different. I finally have got one of my closest friends, Jennifer Martinez, being on the podcast, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a second. But I'm very excited because I've always wanted this to be a platform for people from all over the world, people from all walks of life. And I'm always excited when it's people who are very, very close to me. And some of my earliest episodes were those people because I kind of started the podcast by going out and plumbing my network. It is like pulling people in. But since then, it's been harder and harder to get folks in. But I'm very excited. Jennifer and I are going to have a fun conversation today. I'm going to have to work very hard to keep my hands out of her story because we have so many stories that we both know about each other. So I'm going to shut up now. Jennifer, let's get into your introduction for a moment. Tell us a little bit about yourself, but start with, Jennifer, how would you like to be known? How would you describe yourself as a person?
Okay, well, hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Martinez, as Paul mentioned, and I'm really excited to be here. It has been a long journey to align our schedules and everything else to make this happen, so I'm really excited to be here. How I would like everyone to know me, there are three words or adjectives that Paul, asked, and those really resonated with me closely for various reasons. I mean, that would probably be another podcast to explain each and every reason for each one of these words, but the words that I chose were intentional, courageous, and reflective. And those three embody everything that I have always been and how I continue to evolve and grow into the person that I am today. And I know that I'll be tomorrow because of these three adjectives.
I love that you shared those. I'm gonna tattle for just a second here because Jennifer and I have been through not only, a long number of years together, but different phases of our lives together. And I'm not going to go into that in case it's part of her story, but intentional, courageous, and reflective. I have seen you be those things, and I have seen you be those things for different reasons, different motivations at different times and in different ways. I've seen you be those things for good. I've seen you be those things for evil. So I'm excited. I'm excited to hear how the story unfolds today. That's all I'm going to say about that. Jennifer, quickly, by way of introduction, what else would you like folks to know about you? Things you do for work, hobbies, interests, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have a lot of hobbies, in which a lot of them I'm diving into right now as I am transitioning out of the corporate world and into the new life of being an entrepreneur and seeing where and all the different opportunities that present themselves and going down those paths. But some of my hobbies that I get to luckily interact with during this time is my volunteer work. I love volunteering. It's been a core part of my life from childhood. I went to Catholic school. I even went to a Catholic university. Not that I'm no longer practicing Catholic. However, that was one of the practices that was instilled in me at a very young age. And then even following after, that my grandmother was a huge volunteer within the community. She, I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, and one of the biggest events that I know she used to do annually was the Jimenez Thanksgiving event. I can't remember the official name of it, but like she, instead of being with the family, like, traditionally grandmothers are, she was just like, no, I have to go to the Jimenez Thanksgiving and volunteer and feed people that don't have families and or that don't have homes. And that was something that, just her as my role model, seeing that it
Mm.
went even deeper than what I was taught, through the school systems that I went to. And so volunteering is a big core of who I am, and I volunteer in any ways that I can. And then as far as other things that I like to do, I love to do my yoga. I'm a big yogi. I have been for many, many years. And just, taking it to that next level with some future plans that I have with that. And I love to read. I love being out in nature. Like nature, I realized, I'm currently fostering my son's dog, and I this is the second round that I've fostered him. The first one was when my son first joined the Air Force, and I had just moved out to Florida, and I brought his name's Chief, and I brought him with me. And I remember, this is the first time I ever had a dog. I never had one growing up, and I was always so like frustrated, like, oh, I have to take this dog out for a walk every day. Like he never gets tired of walking. He never gets tired of walking. I have to take him out every day because he's a big dog. And sure enough, wouldn't you know, like I sent him back to my son when he, had the ability to get him back. And I found myself walking every day still. And I was like, oh, I wasn't walking him. He was walking me. And I didn't realize how much I enjoy and need being in nature.
Hmm.
And I started to reflect. That's why reflective is one of my words, because I started to reflect on things and I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I've played sports my entire life, like since 9 years old, and all of them were outdoor sports. And, or most of them are outdoor sports. And I've always just been that child, like running the streets. I mean, a
Hmm.
Gen Xer actually living in the streets, right? Playing outside and
Hmm.
not coming
Yeah.
in it was dark out, so I started realizing, like, oh, wait a minute, like nature is a big part of who I am and a big
Hmm.
part of what I need in order to maintain my sanity and my balance.
Yeah.
And like, and now that I have Chief again, now I'm embracing it, right? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
go, like, and it's a whole different experience this time around
Yeah.
with him.
I love that. Obviously, I've met Chief. I've spent time with Chief. I've pet sit for Chief
That's
as well.
fun.
A quick acknowledgement, like in addition to the things that you described about yourself, intentional, courageous, and reflective, you're also, I know you to be very expressive and very much a storyteller. We're already starting to get a little bit of a flavor of that too.
Yeah.
I want to get into your story here in just a moment, but before we start with the 5 questions, there's one more question I have for you briefly, and that is, as you think ahead to the next 30 or 35 minutes or so in sharing your story with us, what intention would you have for yourself today?
The intention that I set when I agreed on doing the podcast was to be as open as possible to sharing what needs to be shared, allowing myself to be vulnerable, because I'm a strong believer that in this journey that we're all experiencing, we each carry a message for
Mm.
the other. We may not know it in the moment that we're delivering a message to someone. It's, later on down the road that it circles back, and we're told years later, maybe never, but the point of the matter is, like, I'm here to share, to be vulnerable, and to deliver whatever message I need to deliver.
Mm. I love that, and I love the way you express that. In fact, that might make its way into the title of your episode, by the way. So we'll see. We'll see how your short story unfolds. My
Okay.
intention today is to support you in your intention, and that we create a space for you to be able to share your story with us, and that there will be people out there who will hear your story and they'll see a little bit of themselves in you and your story, and they will feel a little bit more connected, maybe a little less alone, and in the best of cases, possibly even inspired or empowered to go out and do something they've been wanting to do.
Yeah,
And that's
you said it great. You're hit the nail on the head.
this is definitely something that you model for sure. So let's get into the first question. Jennifer, where in your life have you found yourself sitting on a comma?
Oh. I think you of all people know I've set several commas. I've had several chapters. I've had several unknowns. I most recently was sitting on a comma, and so we'll start with that one because it's current, and it I was in the corporate world, and my position was eliminated in January, and it didn't. I knew that my time in corporate was running its course, and I mean, that's a comma that I've sat on several phases. I mean, as far back as even during COVID, and that was, the comma kept showing up then, but it was a program that I was given years ago, that in order to be successful, or the definition of success was to go into corporate and go up the corporate ladder and hit certain salary markers. And I found through the years, especially during this last role, I was not surprised when it came to an end, because there was something in me, my soul was screaming like, okay, this is enough already. And
Mm,
while that comma wasn't really, when the role ended, I had been sitting on the comma even as I entered that role 2 years
mm,
ago. And but fear led me down that path of sitting on that comma. And I don't like to live my life in fear. I like to think that I'm a fearless person, and in most cases I am. But there are still some areas where, yeah, fear, it grips us at times when we least expect it, or
mm.
when we're not really looking at it. I like to think of it as a silent killer. It's the
Yeah.
silent killer of your dreams.
Can
And
I can I jump in for just a second?
yeah.
I'll reflect things from time to time, and wherever I misreflect something or don't land, it doesn't land right. Correct me, obviously. What I'm absolutely want you to continue with your story, but it seems like, I hear the themes that come up from all of the, God, we're now at 150 some odd folks that I've recorded, right? I hear the themes that come up. You're describing sort of this complex dynamic, right? Because on the one hand, it's like, oh, my position was eliminated. I was sitting on a comma where to go. But that's not what you're describing. You're saying, kind of in the bigger picture, you were on a comma. And these
Mhm.
are just some of the events that happened during that. And I think that's an important distinction to call out, right?
Yes,
I'll
no,
stop
that's
there and let you continue.
no. And so my comma in the grand scheme of things is continuing on in that corporate world, even when I knew long ago that I should have gotten out of it,
Hmm.
what's maybe 6 years ago, maybe even longer, who knows. And finally getting off that comma this last time, it's basically just jumping off the cliff and
Hmm.
saying, okay, you know what, I'm taking, I'm, I'm, I'm done. I need to move forward. I need to get off of this long comma that I've sat on forever. But I do believe that the commas are necessary. We do need
Hmm.
that pause to gather, to reflect, and to gather information, and to gather, okay, what direction am I going to go in? Where are my passions truly driving me? But in order for me to identify my true passions, before I could even recognize all of that, I needed to heal a large part of me that was wounded from, childhood all the way through adulthood. And in order for me, and I'm speaking for myself personally, I know that I needed to heal a lot of those blockages that I had that were preventing me from recognizing what my passions were or
Mm,
are.
mm. So you're kind of describing a number of elements here. There was, and tell me if I'm wrong. Like I'm trying to organize this in my mind as well. There's like this larger comma that is, what are my passions? Where do I want to go with it? And what do I want to do? Then there's this sort of, while I'm reflecting or until I know, I'll take the conventional path. And
Mhm.
then there's something is preventing me to move from one or the other, and that's this healing that you need to do. Is that a fair way of kind of summarizing that?
100%. I like, thank
Cool.
you for knowing me well enough to interpret what I'm saying, because I know I can speak in very abstract ways. But yeah, no, that's exactly it.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
that's for a lot of people, the challenge, the comma that they're sitting on is like, how is all these hows, right? Like, how do I
Right.
get the job? How do I move to the next level in the job? How do I move to another job and so forth? And you're saying, yeah, jobs can come and go. I can do jobs, but there's something bigger that I'm meant to do. And up to this point in your story that you've shared, I haven't quite named it or found it, and there's some other work that I have to do before it can become clear.
Yeah, 100%. I had this
Nice.
huge block, and I didn't even realize it until I started to
Mm,
pull the layers away, and it started to, it just organically exposed itself. And that's when the light bulb went off, like, oh, now I get why I've had to go through this journey and why I kept repeating the cycles of going back to those corporate positions, even though when I knew long ago I was done with it, but I didn't know any different. But it was also too because I didn't I didn't know what my true passions were. And then
mm,
once I healed, that's when I was able to finally speak my truth, not to myself, to myself.
hmm
And that's the biggest part of it. It's being able to speak the truth to yourself and recognize and
mm.
look at yourself and say, okay, this is what you're meant to be doing, and now go out and do it. Just
Yeah.
do
So I want to ask the honest question, and the invitation here, Jennifer, is that this is your story today. So you share however much or however little, whatever is comfortable for you. You can speak as abstract or as specifically as you want to. I'm going to ask the question. It doesn't mean you have to answer it.
it. Okay.
The question is, so what were some of these things? Like what was your truth that you said you needed to speak? What did you I could ask five different questions here. You take us where you want to go. Like what was this? Where did it take you?
I That's the deep layer
Hmm
answer for me. I A lot of my volunteer work is one of it. Knowing that I need to give back, and not in just one way, but in multiple ways. I first want to be able to share with people the different healing methods that I used along my journey to overcome those blockages, right? I've dealt with a lot of traumas in my life, and from childhood through adulthood, and different forms of traumas, whether it was abuse or tragedies that happened. And I did seek therapy for, every time any of those situations arose. I am a big believer in therapy, but not all therapy is the same. There's so
hmm
many different types of therapy. And some of the therapies that I found that helped me specifically for the traumas that I experienced were EMDR and past life regression work.
Hmm.
And that form of therapy helped open up my mind to start recognizing all of the other situations in my life that prior to having the EMDR sessions, they seemed like they were tragic situations, but they really that there was certain incidences that happened in my life that it seemed like they were so big and oh my god, it was so horrible. But then when I reflected back on them, I realized it wasn't really that particular incident that was the tragic incident. It was really the one that, like, say that was at point D, it was really point A that
Mm.
was the true tragedy. But I couldn't even go back to A because I was still stuck here on D. And once I started
Yeah.
looking back and finding the root cause, right? It's really applying the root cause analysis, but on
Yeah.
yourself and on your traumas. Like, okay, it really wasn't that situation that was the traumatic situation. It was further back beyond that. And once I got to the root of it, that's when things just started opening up. And that's when I started chiseling away at the barrier I had created around my heart
Mm.
to protect me. And that was when that journey started, when I was able to start chipping away at it slowly. And I know a lot of people that I've crossed paths with have asked me, like, what did you do? Especially when I share some of the stories with them that I've been through. They're like, how did you get through that?
Hmm.
It's like it was really one step at a time and
Yeah.
chiseling a little bit at a time. I mean, this healing journey is it doesn't happen overnight. I've been on it, like, consciously on it for about, it'll be 13 years this summer.
Hmm.
And it comes in phases, and it's still unfolding. However, where I am today is a stark difference than where I was 13 years ago.
It sounds to me like, there are many, many stories in the book that is Jennifer, right? And that I might have put for a second there, I thought maybe I kind of derailed you a little bit earlier, but I think I got some clarification. You This could be a conversation about the story of the traumas, but what you're really talking about here is no, this is a conversation about the story of the healing, right? The
Mhm.
traumas are important and that could be a whole conversation, but I believe what you're setting up for us and have been sharing with us is it's about the work that I did in the healing. It's about the what I needed to learn from the healing process and how the healing process is now, as your story continues to unfold for us, is setting the stage for me to then go do the things that are important to me. So it's more
Right.
about the healing journey than it is the what happened to me so much.
Right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't like to get stuck on what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
It it yes, it's the result of it was the healing part of it, but I don't like for those traumas to define me, because for me, once I've worked through that, I move forward, and it's part of my past. It doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
if it ever surfaces up again, because the certain things kind of, but what's the word I'm looking for? Circulate again,
Yeah,
or
they resurface for sure.
resurface, right?
Yeah.
And your trigger points, we all have them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you start realizing when you've moved past a certain incident, when you're not as easily triggered by it as you once were
Mm-hmm.
before. And so once there's that point where I'm no longer triggered about something, like, then yes, it's a part of me, but it doesn't define who I am today.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
don't like to get stuck on that.
you described now a 13-year journey with the healing process and the healing work, and you touched on a couple of things for us that it sounds like you went in and had some deep conversations about your relationship with the things that had happened, how you viewed them, how you dug down to root cause. I also believe I heard, you tell me if I'm wrong, that there was some reframing work in there, like just looking at things from a different point of view. What else
100.
what else would you say kind of about the healing work? You said you started this episode by saying we all carry a message. Perhaps that's part of your message. What was important about the healing work to you?
I I refused to allow those moments of darkness to keep a grip on me.
Hmm.
I knew there was always something in there, something shining, and I that was the direction that I desired. And it would have been very easy for me to stay in the darkness. It would have been very
Hmm.
easy for me to give up. And something kept driving me forward, like, no, you can't. And I that's the biggest thing was, just that of just doing the work so that I could come on the other side of it and help others, that somehow either empower them, share something with them, that I used a technique that was beneficial
Hmm.
to me in order for them to get off their comma, move
There's
forward.
in every episode, I say this a lot. There's people who will be listening to your story, and especially folks who can relate. They'll be like, "Uh-huh, yeah, not, yep, I get it. I understand. I've been there too," and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of assuming that I think we'll do as listeners to your story. And there's always an opportunity to like, wait, hold on. Let's peel that back a little bit more and let's see what that was really like for you, that I feel like are really insightful nuggets. When you say, I refuse to allow those moments to continue to have a grip on me, I think people out there are going to be wondering, like, how did you do that? Now, I know there's a long story you could tell there, and it's not simple,
Mhm.
but a day in the life where you were faced with that, like, what was the thing you did or thought or whatever to be able to allow you to not allow those things to have a grip on you? Like, I'm sure it's 1,001 moments, but what would one of those moments look
Yeah,
like?
I mean, oh, that's a hard one. I think the reason why that this mindset of mine that I shared came about actually years ago after a really bad breakup. And I remember I was devastated over this breakup. I mean, this was probably like my first true love as an adult, right? Because we
Mm,
have little loves, in high school or like college years, whatever. But like this was my like love, and we broke up. I was devastated, and I was crying all the time. I couldn't listen to certain songs because it reminded
mhm.
me of our time together, or like, oh, this song was reminding me of the trip that we took to New Mexico, or it reminded me of this and that and the other. And it got to a point like, and I was just so sad. I was missing him, but I knew the breakup was needed and was required. And I got to that point where I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to be bitter from this breakup. I refuse to allow him to steal my future happiness.
Mm,
Like,
mhm.
I don't want to stay so angry and bitter at what he did to me to cause the breakup, that I then close off my heart to ever experiencing love again. And so that's where it really stemmed from. That was first planted in that breakup, and that was probably like that was late in my late 20s. And that's what I mean by, like, I refuse to let the tragic darkness take a grip over me,
Mhm.
because I remembered that from the breakup. Like, I I knew I was eventually going to get over it, and I was going to get past it, and I was going to meet someone else that was going to bring me the same love and
Yeah.
happiness. And I knew that, like, with these tragic moments where, I fell into a depression, I stopped working out. I stopped doing my yoga. I stopped doing my meditation. I was worrying. I was fearful. All of all of that heaviness. Like I know the difference between when I'm in a depressed, sad, fearful mood versus when I am a free spirit and
Mm,
full of sunshine and hope and positivity. I know the difference. I've experienced feeling both of those sides. And that's why I will always go towards that positive feeling, even if I forced myself. There were many a times
yeah.
I would wake up in the morning and my body was aching because I was depressed, because I was sad, because I was, all of those things. And it just that weight was so heavy and my body just ached. And it was just like, no, come on, you got to do it. Go out and get some fresh air. Just if anything, go and take that one little step outside just
Hmm.
to get the fresh air, hear the birds, and it's that. I know I don't want to say that it's that simple because in those dark moments, it's not simple, right?
Right, right.
Hard to take that first step outside.
Yeah. Well, and as a coach, what you're describing is very much like if somebody were to say, how do you do that? I heard two things. One, intervening with your own thoughts, with
Mhm.
an eye and an awareness to the future, like just being able to just like, whoa, stop. Like the main thing I need to do here is stop the existing thought, and then we'll figure out where we go next. So intervening was the first thing, and then
Mhm.
taking action, even if it's taking a
Yeah.
different step, right?
Taking action is for me, it's the key. It's the
Hmm.
key of opening that door to the possibilities of what waits for you on the other side. And what waits for you on the other side can be so beautiful, can be so magical. And especially when you're in that dark space,
Hmm.
why not put the action into opening the door and jumping over that threshold to see what lies on the other side? Because where you're sitting today in that darkness it's not good,
Right.
and it's not good, but it's really diving in. I mean, I remember the days, it's gut wrenching hard where you
Hmm.
have to dive in deep into your soul, into your heart, and say, you know what? I've had enough of this darkness. I remember what it felt like to have, the light and love shining on me. I remember what that felt like. And that's where I would rather be there than where I currently
Mm.
am. And it's just finding the strength within you to take that step into action on your desires of being in a happier state of mind.
I love how you describe that so clearly. And what was coming up for me, and then I'm going to ask you the second question so you can kind of continue to expand. But like at first, I was going to say, because I say this all the time, the darkness is seductive. And then as you were talking, I'm like, no, what aligns more with what you're saying is like the darkness is intoxicating.
Mm-hmm.
And the interruption is reminding yourself that you're under an influence, right? You're not
Yeah,
there in the darkness necessarily because you want to be, although there's lots of schools of therapy and thought and everything that says, yes, it's comforting and all of that sort of thing. But I think what I'm hearing you say, or what I'm taking for myself, is like when you're in those moments, is remembering that you're intoxicated. You're not there because you want to be or because that's the place you should be. Like you're literally under an influence, or like you talk about spells all the time, right? And
yeah,
so the first line of business is to break the spell, is to get out from under the intoxication. And then you'll know where to go with it, right? And that
yeah,
aligns so much with what we talk about in coaching, and I know therapists and everybody.
yeah. No, it totally is. It's to me that darkness. It's a
Hmm.
drug. Like I said, fear. I associate fear and that darkness. To me, they're one and the same. And it's a silent killer.
Hmm.
It takes a grip of you, and it's like a drug. It's addicting. It's a very
Hmm.
addictive place. And um yeah, it's once it gets, yeah, it's hard to break those habits. It's
Hmm.
really hard, I know.
For sure, for sure. Well, yeah, and you're sharing your story here. Let me ask you the second question, and it's an opportunity for you can expand, go backwards if you need to, like continue telling your story as well as answering the question. And that is, as you look back at this comma that you've been describing to us, what did that create for you?
So the comma for me, it created that pause, right? It allowed me to pause. It was a long pause, but it allowed me to pause and to recognize the areas that I needed to work on in order for me to be at my fullest potential.
Mm,
That's what the comma was there for me.
the space to recognize, see, reflect, and start doing the work, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Then let's go ahead and go to question three, because I suspect there's a lot of gold in here. Question three is what have you learned about yourself as a result of sitting on that comma?
Well, that's one of my words, is the courageous one.
Hmm.
I have, I was often told that I am a courageous person, but I never really, I didn't ever see it. I never really believed it. I didn't understand what people would say when they would tell me that. I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm just living. I'm just taking one step forward. I don't know what I'm doing. Like even today, I like, I have options, but I don't have like a secure plan in place, and nor have I ever in my life. Right? I've just been living, and so having I learned that I am a courageous person. I do act or do things that a lot of people may not take the risk of doing, or more so like people wait to have that plan, before they execute things, and I'm like, nah, let's go. I'm just gonna jump
Mm,
off the ledge here, and let's just see what happens. And if, I've always landed on my feet in the past, I'll land on my feet again. Let's go. So I really have grasped that feeling and knowing now, sitting on that pause, of how courageous I have become through all of the trials and tribulations.
It's interesting because you kind of reinforce something that I've started to come to know and to state, right? Is like courage isn't usually recognized until after the fact. Courage is really more about just doing the thing,
Yeah,
right? And often what you see as normal, other people will see as courageous and vice versa. So it's very subjective. I'm going to share another thing, like an acknowledgement and a little bit of a story, and I'm going to abbreviate it dramatically just so we can get back into your questions and your stories. So, I remember a time many years ago where there was a dinner party you were hosting, and you actually, so you said, I don't necessarily have to have a plan, right? And I would also add to that, you tell me if I'm wrong, and if I have a plan and it goes awry, then I can always respond and adapt and flex,
yeah,
right? And I
yeah,
remember this dinner party, and there were a lot of people coming, and you had a plan, and you had spent a ridiculous amount of money on food, and so on and so forth. And the way you were going to be cooking, between the grill and the oven and everything, let's just skip to the point that that didn't go as planned. And my like overthinking, worried, got to do it a certain way kind of self, or at least I was more so at the time, right? I was like, I don't know how the hell you're going to do this. And you put a glass of wine at the time in my
yeah,
hand and sent me out and said, go set the table. And I was like, this is not going to happen. And do you know, this woman, she had said we're going to eat by a certain time, and I think we were within 3 minutes of it, and all the food came out. I still to this day have no idea how you like what spell you
yeah,
cast, but I share that because one, it's funny and it's you and me, and two, this adaptability, this resilience, and also you were unruffled. Like I was completely panicked. I think there were 10 or 12 people coming, and you were completely unruffled. I'll figure it out. And I literally could not see it. And you have done that over and over and over again in your life, where whether it was you who struggled or whether it was me who was like, oh, I recognize that. Like, I honestly do not know how you're going to feed 10 people off of this little bit of rice and whatever,
yeah.
metaphorically speaking.
It was
And
the
you're
grill.
always pulling out the dinner party.
It was the grill. Remember, I went and got that
Yes, I
grill,
remember. I was editing.
and and the grill didn't work. Like, what? It
The
didn't
grill didn't
work.
work because it was literally rusted through.
Well, I mean, that was Dan's doing. Right? Anyway, So
Okay, but let's go forward though, because I want to come back to your story. And so the fourth question, Jennifer, you've shared a little bit of this already with us, but I'd love to hear what more you would add. What has changed for you as a result of sitting on that comma?
oh, what has changed for me? What has changed for me is hmm, believing in myself.
Mm,
Finally believing in myself and knowing that I have what it takes to do whatever it is that I put my mind to, based off of everything that I've overcome, all of the demons, if you will, that I've faced. And I tell myself, okay, if you were able to face that and break through that, then you can break through any door that you want to break through
mm,
and cross whatever threshold you want to experience and explore on the other end, and not limiting myself any longer or fulfilling a narrative that was created by someone else, and to start forming my own narrative of how I want my life to be.
mm. I would even go so far as to expand because you share a lot of things with me in our conversations and wisdoms that you've learned or landed on and so forth. And when you were talking about opening doors and that sort of thing, and I'm like, and you're also the person who says, and the doors really aren't even real to begin with, right?
Yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
not.
Mm. It's interesting. I'd love to hear what you would say to this because, kind of going back to what you shared earlier about people seeing you as courageous and so forth, you said finally believing in myself. Tell us the distinction here because I've always seen someone who I believed in herself. Your actions, the way you live life, the hold my beer moments or hold my tea moments or whatever, those have always appeared to me as an outsider, as somebody who believed in themselves. You're
Mhm.
saying somewhere in that journey, something shifted specifically for you. Have you already said what you needed to say there, or is there anything else you would add to that?
I think I have said everything I needed to say with that. It's funny, like back to what you're like, people, it's funny about perception, right? How people perceive you a certain way, but you don't perceive yourself in the same manner.
Mm,
And I, while people perceived me as believing in myself or having the confidence, because that's how like my outward projection is. But inside, I'm like, not terrified, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing. I'm just
hmm
following. Like, I'm just kind of going along. I'm improv. I've been improving throughout my entire life, you know.
hmm
and and that's the difference now. Like, it's coming with a different level of like, yes, I'm still gonna always improv. Like that, I don't think will ever change. But there's a different level of confidence that's coming with that now, that I
mm,
am grateful for acquiring during the time of sitting on that comma, because it really taught a lot about who I am. And that's why I looking back on it now, even though it may have been a little torturous sitting on the comma and it was frustrating, and I was just like, oh my God, when is this ever going to end? Like, when am I ever going to be able to take that step forward and move forward? But now, like, reflecting on that, uh, that pause was needed because there was so much to unpack.
hmm
And
mm,
it's made me more aware of not my surroundings, but it's made me more aware of of the obstacles that are always going to be presented to us. Those never will
Hmm.
go away. And those are truly just our tests of seeing how far we've come,
Mm,
reminding us how far we've come, and showing us the strength that lives within us to move forward. And that's
mm.
what that pause has taught me. That's what's different now.
I love that. And of course, I'm so honored and privileged to have kind of been alongside you, varying differences throughout the years, but to be able to witness it. And I think what I'm also kind of taking from what you said is that throughout much of our lives, especially around this word reflective that you shared about yourself, right? Is that throughout our lives, we can definitely look at ourselves, and then there comes a moment where you actually see yourself. And
Yeah,
that's kind of the word that comes to mind for me is that, and I remember, along with what you shared, like I kind of remember at what point in your life it happened. Is like you just see it. And then, like you said, there's this recognition and acceptance and just things ease and get gentler a little bit, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and then it's like looking back, and it's like it was always there in front of me, like what I'm meant to do. It was always there, like all of the signs were always there, and it was just me looking the other way because I just wasn't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe
Mm,
it was meant to be that way in order for me to learn and grow in the manner that I did, to gain the knowledge that I did, because if I had seen it too early on, then I wouldn't
mm-hmm.
have gone through some of the lessons that I needed in order to be able to feel and know certain things that
Yeah.
I could have easily bypassed.
I was recording an episode with a guest yesterday and we talked about this very thing, right? Like there's the things that happen to us in our lives and there's the we can look at it from the point of view of everything happens for a reason. And then
Mm,
there's also this different kind of frame which is things happen to us and we can draw, take or create meaning from it. And that's what I hear you doing is like through the reflection and through the courage to do so is to be intentional about what you're going to make out of the things that happen in your life. And here you are.
yeah, yeah.
Question 5, Jennifer. What does getting off the comma look like for you?
It looks like a whole new world.
Mm,
I'm still in the process of it unfolding, but what it looks like for me is finally starting my own business and moving forward with that, and leaving corporate behind, not relying on that solely, finishing my book that I've been writing forever, and getting that. I finally sent my second round of edits to my editor, and the first four chapters I'm a third of the way there, so being able to finish that, because that's I'm finishing that book.
yeah.
And like I said, starting my business and moving forward with that, and incorporating all of the things that I love, like I mentioned, all of the signs that were there throughout my life that I just kept looking the other way and ignoring. And it's like I'm no longer ignoring those signs. It's very clear of what I need to do.
Mm,
And I, like most things, like the dinner party meal, I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's just, but I know
yeah.
that it's going to turn out a beautiful spread, like that dinner party ended
And it
so many
was.
years ago. So
Yes.
stay
No,
tuned.
no,
And
no rusty grill this time. Or
no,
metaphorically, there's obviously some other kind of challenge or obstacle in the way, but you
yes.
you will just well, you always did. You'll be with it and you'll
Yeah.
navigate around it.
Yep.
I love it. I love it.
So,
Um, I always tell guests at this point in the conversation, oh my gosh, I wish we could talk more. And, the podcasts come to an end and I'll have to follow your journey. I feel lucky as shit right now because our journey will continue. Like I will get to
right.
hear so much more of the cheese may and so much more of the details, after this. But for the purposes of our listeners, let's go ahead and kind of wrap things up. I again want to thank you for being on the show today, joining our community of storytellers. So, for the people who aren't as lucky as me and want to learn more, connect with you, see where you're going and what's up next, I'll put your links in the show notes. Walk us through where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm in the works of getting my website launched. It's gonna my the company that I started is called Holistic Life Methods, and so I have right now I have Instagram, of course, but I'm also so it's my Instagram's at Holistic Life Methods. I'm just at the beginning stages of it, just introducing myself to who I am. Like I really wanted to use that as the foundation of like, okay, this is who I am and these are the different techniques, but it's also evolving day by day into also creating a little pop-up store. So I'll be hitting up different farmers markets in the South Florida area.
Mhm.
That's why the website's coming for to promote the natural goods that I will be selling. And I'm eventually going to be working on Substack. Luckily, I have you to thank for introducing me to that. I figured that was really a better platform for me than Instagram. I'm
Mm.
not really much of a social media person. I would rather do more writing, and that kind of aligns better with my book. And I mean, of course, I'm still on LinkedIn, but I'm slowly getting off of that.
Yeah. At
And
least people could find you there and then you can
yeah,
redirect, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
I would say for right now, it's Instagram and LinkedIn. Sorry, I don't have a Facebook. I need to
That's
create a
perfect.
Facebook for the company, but yeah.
I would argue, do you have to? But
I
that's
know.
me.
Me
That's
too.
that's that's me being totally selfish right there. So we'll table that
That's
one.
no, listen,
Eh.
I do too because I've never had Facebook. So like I'm like, oh, I'm finally forced to get it because of the business. And I don't know. I'm just
I
like,
think the most avid face and all the social media experts out there would probably like shoot me down right now. But I think even the most avid Facebook aficionados would tell you if you've never been here, don't come here.
okay, yeah, that's a
But
lot
you and
has
I will gossip about that afterwards.
yeah, yeah,
Here's the last piece, and it's very important because and again, you being here, sharing your story with us, um, telling things from your unique experience and point of view. This podcast is all about storytelling and lifting up voices of other people,
yeah.
right? The whole podcast has always stood for we can take inspiration from each other. We don't have to have experts and millionaires telling us how to live our lives, right? And you have delivered in spades. So thank you for that. Your story wouldn't be complete if I didn't give you an opportunity to lift up the voices of others.
Mhm.
And so I call this section acknowledgments, and it's your chance to give a voice to boost, to lift up others who matter to you. That could be causes, organizations, it could be other creators, or just people in your life who matter to you. Who would you like to acknowledge today? And I'll be sure to reference them in the show notes as well.
Well, I mean, I mentioned one earlier, but she's of course deceased, my grandmother. I
Mm.
really owe a lot of who I am to what she taught me and how she raised me. And of course, the other person is my son, Joseph, who is, he's in the Air Force and currently deployed. And so he's really been my North Star for me, what's always kept me on track and, you know, provided me that drive to take that step forward every day. And as far as organizations, I mean, I mentioned, Vitas is one of them. I really feel, it's hospice at the end of the day, and I really have enjoyed volunteering with them.
Share
As
for the listeners who don't know who Vitas is. Just go ahead and tell us who they
okay,
are.
it's
I'll put a link in the show notes for it,
okay.
but tell us who
It's
they are.
a it's an organization. It's a hospice organization, and I volunteer with them as a like social visit person. I the other one of the things that I am also I'm working on. I have my end of life doula, and that's why I volunteer with Vitas in order to continue to work on that practice, and it's basically providing a peaceful transition for individuals that are getting ready to cross over, and also to provide that support to their caregivers, who are a lot of times the ones that are taking the brunt of the stress and the fears and all of the unknowns. And it has been I really like what Vitas does, and also the different end of life doula organizations that are putting together the training material and teachings, so that there are more people out there to help support those that are transitioning, and also their family
Mm-hmm.
members.
Mm.
So,
I love that, especially at, my age, and my peer group. Like, we're starting to enter that era where we're thinking about those things, but we're also at that age where the folks in our lives who are living longer, their time is up, right? They're
yeah,
coming to the ends of their lives. And so, you know, at this age where I'm at, it's no surprise I'm 56. And as I start to see people in my sphere who are passing and so forth, the this is my personal opinion, and then I'm gonna shut up and we can wrap up your episode. The way we end, the way lives end in the United States today is so clinical sometimes, and so
yeah.
sterile, and so sometimes inorganic, right? So I
Mhm.
just personally, want to acknowledge you for doing that work, for volunteering in the first place in that organization. And then of course, the training, and
Yeah.
ultimately the kind of certification that you're working on is, like, I think is so important to our future because it was so important in our past, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the last one that I really am, uh, one of my bigger passions is also any type of organization that supports, offering support to people that are considering suicide.
Mm.
Suicide support groups is another one. I don't really know of specific names. There's so many out there, but experiencing that firsthand, losing a loved one very dear to me to suicide, and also to having family members that have lost their children, or other, friends and family members that have lost people that they've known to it. I have it's very close to me in so many different ways. And I feel that that one is a very important um, group that we need to continue to offer support to, so that they can
Hmm.
give the tools and the resources to those that find themselves in that dark place and are unable to find that key of action to taking that step forward.
Yeah.
And um, and then lastly, uh, there's there's there was another one that it just escaped my mind, so I guess I'm not meant to talk about that one right now. So,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
Well, I'll extend this invitation, even if you're not going to be verbally acknowledging it. We still have some
Mhm.
time before your episode will air, so you can always send
Okay,
me information.
okay,
And I'm just going to leave that in the recording because it's you and me, and it's
yeah.
okay. So, Jennifer, let's close things out. Thank you again so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love you. I'm so proud of you for coming on the show, and so grateful for you bringing, my close community into this podcast, which is very important for me. So I'm glad you were a part of it today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome. You have a wonderful weekend ahead, and you stay on because you and I are going to gossip some more afterwards.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right.
Bye.
What an honor it is for me to hear and share these powerful stories. I hope you feel the same way. Think about what you learned from this conversation. I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling or reflection, because surprises can reveal themselves to you when you write your thoughts down. If you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. And if you do discover something you'd like to unpack further, book a call with me and let's talk about it. My links are in the show notes. Be sure to like this episode and follow the podcast here on this platform and all social media at Off the Comma. Feel free to interact and comment. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. As always, keep noticing and keep listening.